Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm sure you're already tired of seeing my face by now, so this video is going to be something a little bit different. I am responding in this video to a YouTube channel called the Art Assignments video called Art That Brings Me Comfort, where they made a small handmade book filled with photos of artwork that brought them comfort or represented feelings and thoughts during what can be seen as a very uncomfortable time. Quarantine has brought about many emotions in me, good and bad, as they have for all of us. So, through these 7 pieces of art from different mediums and artists, I'd like to share with you my mental milieu. Now, as you can see here, I didn't use normal copy paper. I decided to use vellum, which is a absolutely gorgeous type of paper. It used to actually be made out of calf skin, because of its color and its transparency, and that is the reason why I like it. But of course they do not make vellum like that anymore. It is simply just made out of wood like any other. And I really like it because whenever you see me make this book, you'll see that it is all of the pictures kind of hide behind one another, but you can still see in between the pages. So that's why I'm using that. And I'm also, as you can see, working and using a Matisse book as a desk, because this is the best surface that I could have worked with in the situation that I was in. So that's why that's there as well. So I'm just going to finish off the book here with a few staples, just so we can make sure they're not falling apart. And then we have a little small book that we can put all of our inspiration in. Alright, so as you can see, the book is finished, really plain and simple. You don't have to go too crazy with this. So we are going to start out with the just regular copied pieces of paper. We're going to start out with Agnes Martin's The Tree, the one I was just pointing to. I felt like starting off with Agnes Martin was the most accurate because of the well-known vagueness and empiricism of her paintings. To most, these paintings might seem like the typical modern art bullshit that only received fame for its ambiguity and perceived lack of explanation. And a few years ago, I probably would have agreed with you. But actually, thanks to the Art Assignment, the YouTube channel that inspired me to do this video, I was blown away by the fact that Martin's paintings are not like that at all. In fact, they are painstakingly made with perfect mathematical proportions, but the ideas behind them are anything but lacking in originality or substance. To keep it short, Agnes Martin painted emotions, even more acutely, the emotions we could not name or describe with silly words. Although this painting is called The Tree, and Agnes Martin explained it was inspired by innocence, the painting still evokes the unfamiliarity of our unknown feelings, the feelings that are overwhelming but not named. During quarantine, Agnes Martin came to mind first because of her exploration through feelings so powerful that they never had a proper place in a world so concerned with identification. In a time so rare, how can our feelings we may never have felt before, or as intensely, be surmised? The Tree is a painting scored with lines on a background that barely contrasts them, and they seemingly come out of a fog. Spending so much time by myself, due to being a non-essential worker, I feel a lack of clarity and something impending. My general emotion, despite the ones that are actively trying to hold the structure of my humanity together, is this fear of the unknown. Smells, light, landscapes, darkness, the swollen sense of being left alone in a house. My surroundings feel amplified but also desaturated. I'm caught in some kind of sensory limbo, and all I can make out of it is the haziness of the future and the paralysis of nostalgia. I gather in my mind what I've learned, what I've felt, and hypothesize the forthcoming moments that will take a toll on me. And in this way, I feel innocent and unknowing, but simultaneously aged by experience. I feel part of the fog, part of the mirage. I'm keeping me from myself in order to stay sane. I also feel infantile, separated from the adult world and housed in warmth with food and support, just waiting to be aligned. a tree that bursts forth through the fog, out of quarantine, and into the real world again. Next, we have Agnolo Bronzino. This painting has many names, and I personally knew it in college as an allegory of Venus and Cupid, but its official name is Venus, Cupid, Folly, and Time. I chose this painting not only for its lasting influence on me as an artist, but for how subversive it is. Quarantine has us social creatures living an unnatural lifestyle. The painting was commissioned by the Medici family, and the tale of its meaning still lives on. Cupid is Venus's son, and upon observation of their intimate interaction, there is no such thing as a familial embrace. It is a portrait of incest, only further exemplified by the reactions of the characters surrounding them, attempting to shield the world from their forbidden desire. Aside from that, when observing this painting myself, it feels further applicable than conversation on just how perverse it is. It is mythological and therefore represents themes and lessons more than just detailing a truth. I see what we deal with now, our desires restricted to a point of disobedience. We long to see others as those who benefit from human interaction. We break rules and laws in order to fulfill our needs. We are caged in poverty and luxury, but as a common thread, we desire each other most when we are not allowed the indulgence. We are asked to go against our nature, the positive reinforcement of contact with someone breathing, touching, living. And if you don't break the rules, if you don't go against what's good for you, you, in time, realize what really dissolves you as a human, living within a few walls, one window, an unmade bed, an overmowed lawn, takeout, and conversations with yourself. On a lighter note, I decided to include possibly the least Andy Warhol piece that Andy did in my book. It's a simple sketch of feet with a Campbell's soup can. I felt the need to find one of the plethora of these feet drawings that included some kind of symbolic prop, so there would be some kind of connection to Andy at least. But the drawing is fairly simple and clean, but it holds something I've always envied in artists: the ability to create art in a childish way but still maintaining the grace of adulthood and experience. The drawing is simple, as I said, but that doesn't annul the expertise in my eyes. It takes not only great courage, but great discipline to run with a line and not drive over it a few times more, to be sure. The confidence of this line, how sure he is of his perception and execution, completely baffles me. I have not yet been able to envision something in my mind or even witness in person, a model or prop, and confidently cast it onto my paper without second guessing myself. Things can always be perfected in my mind, a line angled just slightly. But his drawing shows his assurance. It shows the God given confidence of a child that knows nothing of its ego and what others might think. And from the model to Andy's mind and to some neurological compulsion forcing his limbs and fingers to conform and ditto those silly feet and the soup on that paper with less than the first stroke that strived across the paper, you have this inaccurately accurate portrayal of reality. You have purity. It should be everyone's goal, no matter how small, to be able to even partially experience life in this way, I think. I can only feel envy and a great amount of respect for the person able to cut the roots of what it is to be a conscious human being. I want more than anything, in a time of such ambiguity, to just roll with it and not feel so hung up about everything. Next up is Karl Friedrich Schinkel. This is also someone I learned about in college. I had to study a chair that he created for the German Romantics and Neoclassicists. Now, this definitely looks pretty boring. I am honestly not a huge fan of this painting personally. However, I have some background that can give it a lot more meaning, and I have more respect for the idea behind it and for why Carl did it in the first place than I do about the way it looks. Schinkel was an architect. However, early into his career, he found himself without patronage or work and started painting buildings in order to stifle his desire to manifest buildings into the real world. And that honestly makes me a little bit sad. I mean, think about how many of us wish to create, to bring ideas into the world, but the world will not have us. So you find other ways to create, like Schinkel did. Life or circumstance is not always the most accommodating, so you must make do with what you have, or what you have left anyway. So today, when you feel like the world has stopped or the world has forsaken you in some way, know that you must find a loophole for your happiness and take chances or routes you wouldn't have before, and you might just find the next best thing. Now, Francis Bacon might seem too morbid and grim of an artist to mention in this book, but I'll have you know I find just as much comfort as I do discomfort in his paintings. I picked Francis Bacon's The Man in Blue one, even though it is one of the many of paintings of this sort. It's chosen for its darkness. Quarantine is unnatural and terrifying at times and filled with doubt for me. I know this video is about art that brings you comfort, but sometimes this morbid and, grim thing makes me feel human. But on a dark, warm night with the smell of fire burning in the air and a cold front coming in, the trees are shimmering without any kind of spotlight other than the moon, I feel inhuman too. I feel like I'm floating in between what has happened and what will happen. But most of all, when I look at this painting, simple, shadowed, and malformed, I feel that my decisions, no matter how strange or misanthropic or unethical, are somehow possible. I feel untethered by limits or laws, and that I can, in that moment, be some kind of apathetic, omnipotent being that lives and feels and experiences pleasure for the sake of pleasure alone. The man shrouded in shadow and unknowing is alone in a booth in the corner of what looks like some kind of restaurant or bar or basement, and it's entirely solipsistic, other than the viewer, who's watching or creating the reality that he's in, or some kind of prison. He's the only one sure to exist, and the body is a non factor. You're locked in some kind of strange limbo here. And when you're locked away from the cataclysmic world during this time, this unusual time, you have a strange freedom of thought. You are not part of the world anymore, and it's only your fantasy that matters anymore. I'm happy to introduce a current artist as well as musician, Andre Moya. If you have ever followed Mary Rosenberger on Instagram, you would know who I'm talking about, and you would also know that she was his muse for quite some time. She is pictured here in an all-encapsulating fur coat, and I chose this painting simply because Moya's technique is this strangely intoxicating paradox. It's a kind of geometric organicism. The subject seems to gravitate towards the edges of the canvas, and there's this magnetic relationship to some kind of hidden grid as well. But what I love the most is that as far away from Mary's recognizable features as Andre can get, there's still some kind of semblance of familiarity salvaged from the sieve of his mind. And I can't help but know 100% that this is Mary. It looks like her. And as an artist myself who practiced portraiture for a while, I can say the smallest details really do make or break the drawing's resemblance to the model. But Andre has found some weird way to distort a model without losing their recognition, which is brilliant. After a while of observation, I can see that he uses models that have very striking features, so that no matter how you distort their portrait, as long as those abnormalities show through, recognition is evident. And I've actually used this technique myself, and it works. And because of it, I only do portraits of those who possess those features. It's bold, but also at times it can feel cowardly. Like I didn't try hard enough to find something in someone's portrait, or that I don't have the skill maybe to hyper realistically portray somebody. I don't know. But hey, if someone was born strange and obviously a muse of yours, then have your way with them, no matter how easy it may come. And Andre shows me through double portrait, which is what this is called, that when life gives you lemon, just make lemonade, okay? If something good comes along, especially now, take it for what it's worth and soak it up. Lastly, we have a hugely underrated artist because he's so widely famous and recognizable, and that is Pablo Picasso. Now, in honor of my love for him, I ended up chasing work from him that doesn't usually meet the public eye. You see, Pablo had a friend, an art collector, that had this gorgeous home in the south of France. The home is called the Chateau de Castille and was actually on the market recently for a whopping 8.9 million euros. Honestly, that is quite low considering that Pablo Picasso had painted, or I guess engraved, on the walls of this house. And he did so because he wanted to buy it from his friend originally, but his friend refused to sell it to him. So he decided to leave his mark by leaving 5 huge murals along the terrace. I chose the bull in the middle because I like the bull. I like his drawings of bulls. And of course, for the line work, because I'm a sucker for line work. And it's, of course, what Pablo is known for, his coalescence of childhood and adulthood. Picasso is one of my main inspirations personally, and when it comes to form and his portrayal of this bull, facing out all the shown and hidden aspects on a 2D surface, just really amazes me. How can you wrap your brain around that, really? But along with the general serendipitous aura throughout most of his work, his drawings just bring me a sense of ease. Like Andy, there's this envy, but it's not with a negative connotation. And I feel the desire, like a calling for the rest of my time on earth, to find this bliss, to live internally like a child, and to conceive the world again as my own personal entertainment, to experience it optimally through a child peering through the eyes of an adult. So that is the end of my book. But as a finishing touch, I decided to add Quarantine 2020 onto it as some kind of time capsule. Like, I will bring it out of, some kind of book that I stuffed it into, and years later, it's gonna just flood me with memories about this time of my life, because I'm personally taking it as kind of like in a positive way, as like a artistic hiatus. And so this is definitely going to be my memory of this time and of all that it has taught me and all that I've done with it. So this is my book. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you did, thank you so much to the art assignment for giving me this idea for this video. I hope you liked it. Like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day, your evening, your quarantine, whatever. I will see you next time. Goodbye.